All right, so today we're going to jump headfirst into the world of Lunatic Outpost. You guys wanted to know what's trending in this, well, let's just say unfiltered corner of the internet. So we're taking a snapshot of their general discussion forum, specifically from October 31st, Halloween.
Interesting choice of date, don't you think?
Yeah.
Kind of adds a layer of mischief to this whole thing.
Yeah, maybe a little, but really what we're trying to do here is uncover the anxieties and the hopes, maybe even some glimmers of insight that are fueling these discussions.
Yeah, because Lunatic Outpost, as out there as it can be, often acts as a mirror, reflecting some of society's underlying currents.
And boy, is there a strong current right now. The U.S. presidential election on November 5th is absolutely dominating the conversation.
Yeah, it's not just that it's mentioned, though. It's the intensity. Threads about potential election fraud, Trump rallies, even predictions of civil war if certain candidates win. It's a level of engagement you just don't see on every topic.
I noticed that too. It's like the election itself has become this lightning rod for all sorts of anxieties. You see threads like, well, poll, just an honest poll opinion on LoP. W, who are you voting for? With thousands of replies.
And it's not just the quantity, it's the language people are using. All caps, dramatic punctuation. It reveals how deeply personal this election feels to them. Like their entire world hinges on the outcome.
Yeah, there's definitely a sense of urgency there, almost desperation in some of these posts. But it's not a single viewpoint though, right? There are threads pushing back against the pro-Trump sentiment, like one titled, Trump is an insurrectionist. It's a factual finding. The SCOTUS didn't overturn it.
Exactly. And that's crucial to remember. While a particular viewpoint might seem dominant, there are dissenting voices, even on a platform like Lunatic Outpost. What I find particularly interesting is the way these opposing sides interact.
So is it all-out digital warfare in the comments?
Not entirely. You see a mix. There are definitely heated exchanges, but also moments of genuine debate. Some users are actually trying to have reasoned conversations, even if the overall tone is, well, passionate.
It's like a microcosm of the wider political landscape, isn't it?
Yeah.
Passionate disagreements, but also these glimmers of people trying to understand each other.
Precisely. Now, while the election is undeniably huge on Lunatic Outpost right now, it's not the only thing people are talking about. And that's where things get even more interesting. We see threads on conspiracy theories, global events, even the mundane happenings of everyday life. It paints a picture of a community that's engaged with the world, even if it's through a very particular lens.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example. What kind of conspiracy theories are we talking about?
Well, there's a thread titled, The Mandela Effect Has Been Explained, which is generating quite a buzz. The Mandela Effect. For our listener, is this phenomenon where a large group of people misremembers the same detail about a past event?
Right, like that whole thing about whether Nelson Mandela died in prison or not. It's fascinating how these shared false memories take hold.
Exactly. And its presence on Lunatic Outpost is telling. It suggests a community that's drawn to the unexplained, the things that defy conventional narratives.
Yeah, I can see that. It's almost like a rejection of mainstream explanations, a search for alternative truths.
Perhaps. It speaks to a certain distrust of authority, a willingness to entertain ideas that might be dismissed elsewhere. And it's not just limited to conspiracy theories. We see it in their discussions about global events, too.
Like the thread titled, Ukraine-Russia War in Europe Updates, which seems to have been running for years.
Yes. That one's a fascinating case study. It shows a sustained interest in international affairs, but often filtered through a lens of distrust towards official reports or media coverage.
So they're getting their news from alternative sources, maybe forming their own conclusions based on what they're reading on those forums.
It's a possibility. It highlights how platforms like Lunatic Outpost can become these alternative information ecosystems, shaping people's understanding of global events in ways that might diverge from mainstream narratives.
And amidst all this talk of elections and global conflicts, there's still space for everyday life.
Absolutely. It's not all doom and gloom on Lunatic Outpost. You see threads about Halloween parties, music recommendations, even discussions about the rising cost of living.
Which, let's be honest, is a pretty big concern for a lot of people right now. I saw a thread titled, 7-Eleven closing 444 stores nationwide. That definitely struck a chord.
It did with me, too. And the reactions in that thread were really revealing. You could sense the anxiety, the fear of economic instability. Some users were even connecting it back to the political climate, seeing it as a symptom of larger societal problems.
So even seemingly mundane topics like store closures can become springboards for deeper conversations about the state of the world.
Exactly. It shows how interconnected everything is. Political anxieties bleed into economic concerns, which then filter down to discussions about everyday life. It's a reminder that these online spaces, as niche as they may seem, reflect the complex realities we all face.
And the people behind these posts, the ones having these conversations, what can we learn about them from all of this?
Well, from the language, the topics, even the usernames, we can sort of piece together a picture of the Lunatic Outpost user base. There's a strong sense of community, a shared distrust of authority, and a willingness to engage in discussions that might be deemed controversial elsewhere.
Right. It's like they've found a space where they can be themselves, express their opinions without fear of judgment or censorship.
And this is crucial. We need to be cautious about making sweeping generalizations. We're only seeing a snapshot, a slice of this community.
Good point. We can analyze trends and draw inferences, but we should always remember that we're dealing with individuals, each with their own unique perspective.
It's the human element that makes these online spaces so fascinating, wouldn't you say?
Totally. It's easy to get caught up in the trends and the data, but at the end of the day, it's all about people you know, people connecting, sharing, debating, even if it gets a little heated sometimes.
And that brings us to a pretty important question for our listener. Why should you care about what's happening on a forum like Lunatic Outpost? What makes this deep dive relevant, beyond just a glimpse into a quirky corner of the internet?
I think it can be tempting to just write off places like this as fringe, full of people who are completely out of touch with reality.
Yeah, but that would be a mistake.
Yeah,
Because while Lunatic Outpost might amplify certain views, those views exist in society whether we acknowledge them or not.
right. Ignoring them doesn't make them disappear. In fact, it might even make things worse.
Exactly. These are real people with real concerns. And those concerns, however they're expressed, often tap into broader anxieties and trends that are shaping our world.
Yeah, think about the intensity surrounding the election we discussed. Whether or not you agree with the specific viewpoints, that level of engagement speaks to, I don't know, a deep-seated unease about the future.
It's a reminder that we can't afford to live in echo chambers, surrounded only by those who share our opinions. Understanding diverse viewpoints, even those we find challenging, is so crucial in a world that's becoming increasingly polarized.
So how do we do that? How do we bridge the gap between the world of Lunatic Post and, well, the rest of us?
There's no easy answer, no magic formula, but I think this deep dive has given us some valuable clues. It starts with recognizing that. Even in the most chaotic online spaces, there's a desire for connection, for understanding.
We saw it in those moments of genuine debate, in the threads where people are asking questions, trying to grasp different perspectives.
And it's in those moments that we see the potential for something more constructive. It's a reminder that engagement, however difficult or uncomfortable, is always a better option than dismissal.
Lunatic Post, with all its quirks and extremes, serves as a powerful reminder of this need for engagement. It challenges us to confront viewpoints that might make us uncomfortable, to listen even when we disagree.
And perhaps in doing so, we might just discover some unexpected common ground, some shared humanity that transcends the noise and the chaos.
So to our listener, as you navigate the complexities of the digital world, remember this. Approach these spaces with a healthy dose of curiosity, a willingness to listen, and a recognition that everyone, even the most fervent poster on Lunatic Outpost, has a story to tell.
Because understanding those stories, those diverse perspectives, is essential not just for navigating the online world, but for building a more inclusive and empathetic society as a whole.
And on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought. If platforms like Lunatic Outpost are where some people feel most comfortable expressing themselves, what does that say about the state of mainstream media and public discourse? Are we doing enough to create spaces where diverse viewpoints can be heard and discussed respectfully?
It's a question worth pondering. Until next time, keep diving deep and keep those critical thinking skills sharp.